Hello and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about something that's very special to me, which is the Chinese civilization. Many of you know this is my most played civ, and I've been cooking a lot with them lately, thinking about how can we change this civ, how can we develop the meta from being this classic two-town center song dynasty meta into something maybe a little bit more aggressive. And so in King of Dry Arabia, I took one game off of Beastie with this strategy that I'm about to show you. I also took one game off of Myriad with this strategy from the Best of 5 series on Skarsgård, which is the map that this replays from. And I've been doing pretty well on ladder with it as well. So I want to talk about this possible meta change that we might see for Chinese. And I think the reason we're not seeing it is basically because people are not playing Chinese. And so at the high level, this is sort of very, very rare occurrence, but there's a few players like Anatund, perhaps a few others as well, that have been cooking up this Chinese strategy that is very much like the English longbow rush. So basically what we're seeing is an opener that is, first off, quite standard. It's just focused on food and stuff. Getting the wood for the village, getting the mill, getting everything set up here with the official. Everything's quite simple this way. So it's not that different from the opener that we're used to. And then what happens is, when we are going for the first landmark, we aren't going to go Song. We're going to go for one landmark, remain in Tang Dynasty, and then we head into making full archers and spears. That's it. Then we rely on taxes for upgrades, whether those are eco upgrades or those are blacksmith upgrades, because the thing is with Chinese, everything that's upgraded under the Imperial Academy, so buildings that are within that influence of that landmark, gives double the amount of gold back. I think it's like 64 gold back for each upgrade, which is so much resources. So really just like a really good strat where we don't have to gather a lot of gold, and so we can force so many more units out because we can gather so many more resources. It's super, super cool. Anyways, so this map here is Skarsgård. You might be wondering, what the heck am I looking at? Well, basically the conditions of this map is there's no sheep besides your 5 starting sheep. Then there's a bunch of deer out on the map. There's 2 sacred sites here and another one over here. So you can see there's this big water area here. This is not relevant, really, at the early game and mid game because, well, there's no deep sea here. There's no shoreline fish. It's only for late game when you want to take relics and gold. Then the bases here, you have a type of situation where you have to play aggro. Otherwise, you will be having problems because you won't be able to secure food unless you're doing pro scouts. So that's the situation with this map here. So basically what happens now is I'm aging up. I got 1 on gold. I've got about 5 on food, 4 on food. And I've overgathered a bit of food. So I'm going to re-macro a little bit here, as you'll see. And so I'm just going heavy on wood. Don't think too much about the numbers. Just heavy on wood now. And then what happens is I start building production. Pretty simple that way. Archer ranges, barracks, get the blacksmiths out, everything. Right? Scouting my opponent, I want to figure out what his approach is, because if you're going to go aggro, you want to know, are they going to go aggro too? Are they going to go fast castle? If it's second TC, you might want to get your rams out quicker. There's a lot of things like that. But I'll show you exactly what I mean when we talk about this meta change. So instead of going Song Dynasty now, we're obviously vulnerable in our base. We don't have that Barbican going for us. But we'll use that later to great effect. Here, we're going double archer range, double barrack. And then we're going to play pretty aggressive afterwards. Let me just turn the volume down a little bit here. There we go. Alright, so as you can see here, a little bit of aggression coming out from my opponent. It's one stable and there's another archer range being added in later. And then I'm just splitting my eco about 50-50 now. I'm just full producing as much as I can from my production buildings here. Just spending all my resources, getting a blacksmith, getting my upgrades, right? Making sure I don't lose villagers here. Again, you have hand cannons from your TC, so it feels really, really good that way. And then I go forward, I try to do damage, and then I realize, okay, he has no food in his base. All the food is up here, right? The same is the case with the gold. So the only thing he can do is play defensive with archers, because horsemen will be too expensive. And so if I can deny these gold here, and this gold up here, he will never be able to go castle. And since he's playing Ayubit, that's not very good for him. He needs that. Otherwise, it's going to be a really tough game. He tries to cover the gold with the tower, but he's not able to, because the aggression is already so good. And so you might ask, why not go Shugenus? Why all this archer stuff? Well, Shugenus are slower than archers. Archers are also easier to macro around because you only need wood, and so they don't take up a lot of food for you. if you go archers, because you get so much extra wood from drop-off here. And then you can use the gold on upgrades instead, so you basically don't need to gather any gold. Here I'm gathering with one villager, but I would honestly say you don't need to even gather anything. So yeah, my opponent's now aging up, but it's fine. I don't care about that, because he will not have food. I'm full denying his base. I'm playing super aggro. And that's pretty much the basis of this strategy, is that you are gonna lock down your opponent's base. You're gonna do a lot of damage here with the ranged units, and you're only making spears so you don't lose your ranged. And then all you're trying to do is full deny the enemy resources. Here, I'm bringing 6 villagers, because as you can see, I have now macroed towards getting a Barbican. This is what you can do. If you're stuck not really being able to push into the base just yet, you need to make more units, and then at the same time you can get Barbican down to really solidify this position. And what's really cool about this position right now is we have the boar, we have the berries, and so we can bring one Imperial Official here. The Imperial Official will be able to drop off gold at the Barbican, and so you can just supervise. So look here, I'm pulling in the boar, and the boar is getting targeted down by the villagers. Scout tries not to die here. There we go. And now we have 2,000 resources at a high gather rate here. Super, super efficient, honestly. At the same time, we've moved out over here, and we're doing this thing here that I really like to do with Chinese, which is to build a tower, to build a village, and then you have 13 pop space here, and you're able to fit in your 8 villagers plus your Imperial Official. You can even go a few more villagers if you want to. And then now we play the patience game, right? Getting the tower on the board. We got the Barbican here. He has no gold. He's not able to make lancers or gulams. He has to sell resources to do that, and so he would just have fewer and fewer units if he does. So now we're getting all of our upgrades. We can see we have both our ranged attack and armor. We're getting survival techniques, Imperial examinations. We've got all of our upgrades from our lumber camp. We haven't got the mining camp one just yet. And from our mill, we've got the wheelbarrow, but not the horticulture just yet. So you can see, we're prioritizing upgrades, but keep in mind, this is with one gold villager. We're getting so much tax gold. We always have one official just moving around this way. He has a bunch of archers here, but look at this fight here. You might say, okay, well, his archers are upgraded. Yeah, but I have more units, and archers are quite fragile, so he actually ends up not coming out on top really here, because archers versus archers is always going to feel good. Your opponent has, what, 10 more HP, but they are not going to have ranged armor or anything like that. So this fight is quite even that way, even though it probably shouldn't be. So even if small missteps like this up against a lot of archers can be just fine, because archers versus archers is always going to be pretty even, unless you have more archers. So now, circling around the base, we've got the towers, got the second tower being set up here on the enemy gold. I lose a couple of villagers here, unfortunately, but he loses another archer mass, so it's not that big of a deal, because I'm already now getting more villagers than him. If we hop into the casters mode, you'll be able to see that even if I lost 3 villagers, then I'm still keeping up just fine. And here we start doing our first damage. Switch back to the vision here. And so we do a lot of damage to his economy simply by circling around his base. We know he's out of food. And even if this was one of those maps with sheep, this would also be the time where they would start to run out on the map for food. So it's not just because this map is super aggro, it's also because most maps will be like this at this stage of the game. I've added in horsemen, as you can see, and horsemen are phenomenal when it comes to dealing with enemy archers. Again, we have all this bonus damage, we have our archers performing quite well as well. Again, we don't need to go castle in order to beat somebody who's castle. We can always just stay feudal if we're in a good position economically like this and we're able to deny resources and wall them in. It feels great that way. And you can do that on most maps. So again, our archers outperforming the enemy veteran archers because we have a little bit larger numbers. And so this meta change is quite interesting because a game like this would have looked very, very different if it was just played the old meta way. We would have had Song Dynasty and maybe 2 town centers, and we would have been up against something like Fast Castle from the Ayubit player, and they would have been so far ahead, and that would have been really, really bad for us because we would get no relics, we would get a lot of villages, but we might not be able to survive because of food, because of farm setups and so on. With this strategy, you can afford to go out on the map and get boars, right? We got 2 boars, and we're able to do so much damage. 16 villager kills here at minute 15. The game's virtually over. And just able to fully deny resources this way. This is such an effective way to play with any civilization, but I think with the Chinese, it's probably even stronger than what most people have thought about. Now, I am going to be putting out a build order in a couple of days for this strategy, so you guys can watch out for that strategy. It's going to be a little bit more clean version than the one you saw here. And yeah, that's going to be pretty much just teaching you the macro and the way you should be splitting your villagers, what resources you should be gathering, what units you should be going for, in what order, when to add the stable, and when to just keep adding archer rangers. This game here is more to show you that we're talking about a different type of Chinese nowadays than what we've been used to the past few years with just boom, 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 right? Because a lot of the times, boom is great, but there are so many matchups, for example, against Abbasid, Ayyubid, where we just need that feudal presence, and we can't get it because we're always playing Song Dynasty into Shogunus, and we're simply not able to keep up that way. So this is, again, one of those strategies we really, really need to be able to pull out when we play Chinese, because it's so effective. So again, now just Rams. The economy is so insane. We have 2,250 resources per minute coming in. And this is really, really something that we should be talking a little bit more about, I would say. Because Chinese is just that fucking good. I'm sorry to say, but they're just that good. And so, if you're looking to learn a new civ, you're looking to learn a new strategy, this might be the next one for you. And so yeah, that's it for me. I'm going to be bringing out a guide for how to play this strategy in a couple of days, and that's going to be released. And then with the build order and everything, you guys can follow through on that and try to learn the strategy as well. I think it's such a great strategy to learn. It's so effective, and it's really, really good for Chinese to be able to do some aggression as well and play to their strength still with the taxes and so on. So you watch out for that. If you're interested in coaching, there'll be something about that now. Have a good one.